Okay, great.
Good statement to open on.
Welcome to LU Leipzig Student Room. Today with me are our fantastic students. My name is Camila Chalas and I'm the Director of Marketing and Recruitment here at Lancaster University Leipzig. We have beautiful Leipzig weather, as you can see. It's really spoiling us today. And I'm going to introduce our wonderful students who joined to tell you a little bit more about life in Leipzig, life as a student at Lancaster Leipzig, and everything else that you need to know. All right.
Hi, I'm Brenda. I'm from Peru. I'm a first year business student in Anakarina, Leipzig.
I'm Anakarina. I come from Caracas, Venezuela, and I'm on my third year of business management.
I'm Nicholas, just like her. I'm third year business management. I'm originally from Germany, but I grew up in the US. So.
Great. All right. Thank you. So today we are going to be talking about your experience, right? Just by the way, we have not practiced answers, so everything that you are going to hear is supposed to be very natural and coming from your heart. So you get like the best, I would say, well, positive and realistic feedback you can get. So I wanted to ask you about, the change when you actually moved to Leipzig, to Germany from your home country, and you are Nicholas, of course, from Germany, but you grew up outside as well.
Yeah.
So maybe actually start with you. So what was the biggest change when you came, to Germany after?
Honestly, the biggest change is the weather. I guess that's a standard answer, especially the southeastern part of the US I grew up in. We weren't used to this sort of cold that we have here in the winters. But it does present some unique opportunities that you don't really get anywhere where it's a bit warmer. The ice skating rink that's built up at Augustusplatz, for example, that would not have been possible where I used to live. So I personally prefer a bit warmer weather, but it has its advantages to have at least that time of year where it does get really cold.
Okay, but we are talking about winter today. We are in March, as you can see. We are not
Oh,
freezing. But great, Anakarina.
I also feel like the weather is worse in the north of Germany,
Yeah.
like in Hamburg and so on. So I feel like Leipzig has a decent weather in comparison of other parts of Germany. For me, the biggest challenge was the adaptation. Coming from another country just to come here in Germany to study and having to balance this new independent life that you get, because I can assume that most of us were living with our parents before we moved here, and then having to do everything on your own and balance your studies as well. I think that was the biggest change and challenge for me to come here. Yeah.
For me, I mean, I'm still new technically, so I'm getting used to like the study on your own and cleaning by yourself. But like, I really enjoyed the process. The only thing also was the culture change. I feel like there was a lot of like public transportation. It was so easy to get from one place to another. Some people might think like, oh, Europe is like that. But for me in Peru, like public transportation, I wouldn't use it. I would just rely on my parents taking me somewhere. But it's really nice to like be able to go to somewhere to another really easily, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and it's nice.
Yeah. Great. So talking about this, shift and cultural, adjust to cultural differences, right? People say that Germany is a bit different, right? The Germans are also, quite different to compared to other European countries. So how were you actually adapting? How did you manage to adapt, to adjust? Like any tips, right? You mentioned about the transport. So
For me, I live in the United States for a little bit, so I'm always trying to stay open-minded to new cultures. So I always feel like that's really helpful. Be like some things you may not like and are different, but if you stay open-minded, there's always something interesting about that culture. So I don't know, always like stay up. For example, I love going to Leipzig Center, and there you can see like people playing different instruments or singing in German or stuff like that. And I feel like that really involves you in the culture.
Yeah, I had the advantage that I studied in a German school back in Venezuela, so I already got to know a bit of the German culture. However, of course, it's a big change. It's a huge change of culture. And I think that what Brenda just said about being open-minded and also being willing to learn from the new cultures and being willing to learn the new languages, being respectful with the people that you're talking to. And as long as they see that you're also interested in their culture, they're going to welcome you. I would say that the German culture tends to be a bit shy at the beginning, but once you start to get to know them, then I think it's a very nice culture. It's just you need
Oh, no.
to start to get to know them step by step. So as long as you're willing to engage in the culture.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're absolutely right in that sense, and I guess I have unique perspective in terms of the people here on that, because where I come from here in Germany, it's about an hour south of Leipzig here. Um, that's a much smaller and importantly older city than Leipzig is in terms of the average age. So here in Leipzig, we're about 10 years younger on average than Zwickau, where I come from. And you see that reflected, honestly. There is so much in terms of culture and just people going about, the massive parks we have here as well, and just hanging out all throughout spring, summer, fall, whenever, that you honestly would not get in other parts of Germany where, like Anakarina said, the people tend to be more reserved, some would say stuck up. But yeah.
And this is coming from
Oh, yeah.
Great. I mean, that's really interesting what you're saying. So now moving on to Leipzig. Well, we know Leipzig is now ranked fifth in Europe for the quality of life, right? So definitely another proof that Leipzig is a place to be, right? What are your favorite places, and what is actually your favorite thing about Leipzig? From the student perspective, right? You're coming from completely different parts of the world. I'm pretty sure you have also different preferences. So Brenda.
For me, I mean, I think it depends on who you are and what you like. For example, my friends love going to the stadium when there's a game or something like that. For me, for example, my mom came last weekend, and I love taking her just to walk by the city because she loves arts and music. So like, there's a lot of museums, there's a lot of people playing outside, and it's just a very lively city. There's always something going on. I don't know. I just really enjoy the Leipzig area.
Cool. Anakarina?
Yeah, I agree with Brenda. It's a very vibrant city. You can hear music in almost every corner of Leipzig, or at least if you're in the city center. It's also, Leipzig is very well known for their artworks and so on. There are a lot of places within Leipzig that you can visit and see how they work with art and everything that they do. There are a lot of museums also related to art and also from history, because Leipzig as well has a very interesting history. So you get to know a little bit of that. There are also a lot of sports and festivals that you can find in the city. So there are also a lot of opportunities that you can do here. And I also think that Leipzig is a very international city. I think that you can hear any language walking on the street, and I think that's very interesting. And I find that very curious about Leipzig, because you don't find that in every city from Germany, especially where we are located. So I think that Leipzig is very unique in that.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, no, honestly, I mean, Brenda already, I guess you both already mentioned it. Sports is a big part of the culture here in Leipzig. Mainly, of course, soccer as the German pastime number one, I guess, in that sense. But also other sports. For example, sports I would have never dreamed of seeing here in Germany at this level. Ice hockey, we have a really good team. American football, even I go out basically every spring. Basketball is always on. There's always handball as well. So that's really cool. And beyond that, for summer, one of the amazing things is because the area around here used to be quite high in terms of coal mining work. There are a lot of what used to be just coal mines that are now filled with water that you can just go down, spend a day at. They're all easily accessible. You just get on one tram from city center and you're there in 20 minutes. And you can just lie around on the beach, go in the lake, take a swim, whatever you want to do. So that's always a really cool spot to hang out in summer. But yeah, even if beyond that you are someone who's maybe a bit more politically inclined behind in that way because Leipzig is such a young city. There's always things going on in terms of political activism, protests, things like that. Historically seen as well, I guess there is that connotation for Leipzig being one of the main reasons the Berlin Wall fell. So yeah, that carries through to this very day in terms of what people stand for here and actually going out on the street and sort of showing those values.
Great. Well, definitely an interesting city, right? So many things happening. If you could mention two things, best things you do in summer and in winter. You mentioned lakes, right?
Yes.
I think it's a huge part. I love going to lakes as well. What else in summer for summer or spring?
For the summer, I'd argue what is it called? Rosenthal Park up up north by the zoo has a few fire pits out where even if there's no official events organized, there will be some. For example, there is a world record attempt at the end of May coming up there for the biggest flunkyball game in the world that I will be taking part in because that sounds like fun. But even if there's nothing officially organized in that sense, there's always people hanging out there. You can just go get to know new people, talk to them, you know, have a beer in the park when it's 8 p.m. and it's still a bit sunny out and nice and warm. Yeah, that's always a really good time.
Wonderful.
I was gonna mention that there are a lot of parks here in Leipzig,
Yeah.
as you mentioned, and it's always nice to just make a picnic there. And also you can study while you're in picnic or just eating or playing volleyball or whatever you want to play and be in the park. And there are also a lot of kayak options here in Leipzig. You can go through the city, especially around Park pits, I think, and then you can go through different parts of Leipzig with kayak. I really love it in summer as well.
To add to that, did you know that Leipzig has more bridges than Venice?
Yeah,
I did not.
Yeah, that's actually a fun fact about our city. Brenda.
For me, well, I haven't been here for the summer yet, but I've heard a lot about the lakes and the parks, and I'm excited for that. For winter, there was a lot of ice skating. There was operas and symphonies. My friends love to do karaoke. There's like karaoke places and stuff like that.
Okay, great. Winter and spring, so when's a bit colder and we're moving more indoors.
Yes. There are also a lot of cinemas here that offer the option to watch the movies on English, which I find that's really, really good and very important, especially for this university. So you can look into the different movies that are just launching. For example, just last weekend I went to watch the new movie with the D-Box seats, where you can have the full experience of what's happening, especially if it's action movies and so on. So I think that's very interesting and nice to have here.
Great. Okay.
I mean, for me, it
You mentioned sports already,
yeah,
right?
it didn't have to be
Yeah.
ice hockey, to be honest. Has been the main thing I've been doing this winter, going out every week to the stadium, meeting people there. Lots of people I know. I actually bumped into her once there as well. Yeah, no, that's always an absolute blast. And I mean, what Brenda mentioned earlier about how easy it is to get around here, it legitimately blows my mind, especially compared to my hometown, how perfect, of course, when they're not on strike, the public transit here is. And even then, like even when the public transit workers themselves were on strike last week, you could still get around using the Deutsche Bahn trains as well. So even then, it's not like the city is completely shut down. You still have options to go wherever you want to go.
And you can also rent bikes
Yeah.
and scooters that you can just do it for the minute or for the way that you have to go through. And I think that's very, very practical. I became a very big fan of scooters.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah, that's-
And everything is so close by. Nothing is like too far away
Yeah.
to not be able to walk it. Or...
Okay, that's not.
So would you say that Leipzig is quite compact in terms of like what? Because our campus is located in the city center, right? And I think it's 5-minute walk to the train station and all the other. So it's easy to
yeah.
It
space
is-
around.
It is, I wouldn't say it's compact in the sense that we don't have, surprisingly enough, a lot of like high-rise buildings or anything like that that you may see in other cities of the size of Leipzig. But I think it's more the fact that basically everything is close to the center. So no matter where you are in town, basically you come into the center, everyone has that sort of same travel distance. There's rarely ever an event or a place you want to go that's like on one end of town. It's always usually close to the center. That makes it easy to get to for everyone in that sense, of course.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so moving on to what your accessibility, your student housing. That's one of the most popular questions across, you know, the new applicants here. Can you tell us a little bit more, share your experience? Well, first of all, we do not have accommodation on campus because we are in the city center, right? It's physically impossible. We have now quite a range of accommodation providers we work with, and I think you are staying across different ones.
We are actually in 3 different ones, aren't we?
Which is perfect, right? Yeah. So tell us a little bit, describe it, maybe how it is for you, how it's preparing with, you know, like housing options back into your home country. I mean, for students, because personally, I think it's really good quality here, right? What students are getting, you know, for student dorms. So yeah, and how far is it from campus, and how long does it take you to get to campus?
You want to start?
Yeah, Brenda.
I live in the hood. I think is the closest one to campus. I take about 12 minutes walking, and if I feel lazy or it's too cold, I take the tram that is like 2 minutes away from my house, and I get here in like 10 minutes. It's okay.
Fast, 10 minutes.
But I think it depends on what you want. For me, I really like the hood. They have really big rooms, and it's very more quiet. You have your study area and your washing machine. Not everyone is like a student, so it's also like quieter than other places like in base camp where there's always something going on. It's a smaller community, but I really like it. Honestly, it's clean. It's you get all the accommodations you need, and I don't know. I think it's really close to the city center too, which makes it easier for whenever there's no public transportation, you can just walk anywhere.
Anakarina?
Well, I lived in base camp. That was the first student accommodation that the university partnered with. And I think it's a very nice place to get to know people. It's somewhere where you can meet new people every single day from many different nationalities. And I think the best thing about living in a student accommodation in general, not only in base camp, is that you have the opportunity to meet people that are going through the same phase of their life as you. So everyone is willing to help you. Everyone is like, let's do this together so that it gets better for all of us. Let's create a community that's going through the same thing so that we can all support each other and everyone understands everything that you're going through because they're going through that same phase as well. So I think that's the best thing about a student accommodation. And then base camp, well, it's a very nice student accommodation that has a lot of things to do, not only the rooms, but they also have a private gym. They also have a cinema that you can rent to watch your movies. And you can also organize events there. They have base buddies, which are in charge of organizing events for every month, so that you can always have an activity where you can always meet people and do something completely different. So great.
That's the biggest by far, isn't it? Because I don't know if you know what the number for the hood is, but I know State 2, where I used to live, that's about 100 rooms. I feel like base camp is quite a bit bigger.
470.
Yeah. So yeah, Anakarina is completely right. Like even for me being from around the area here, at least in the broadest sense, one of the biggest advantages for moving into a student home here when I first moved out here to Leipzig 2.5 years ago was the fact that it gave me the ability to meet people that are students as well. State 2 back then wasn't officially partnered with our university, so I don't believe at that point anyone from our university besides me was actually living there. So that gave me a chance to even meet people from other universities around here because there's, I believe, around about 10 different universities in town here that I probably otherwise wouldn't have gotten to meet. For example, I moved out about a year ago, got my own apartment, which is, sorry, quite a lot of paperwork, to be honest. It's not fun. But it is worth it if you do decide to take that step. I would not recommend it though if you're just moving out to Germany or just coming to Leipzig. Do It is advantageous to have that sort of year to settle down. But for example, the roommate I live with now in my apartment, I actually did meet him at Stay Two, and yeah, then about half a year after he moved in last fall, we decided to take the plunge, get our own apartment. It's worked out pretty cool, pretty well so far. So I live about 5 minutes north of where the hood is.
Perfect.
So yeah, we pay quite a bit less than you would at a student home. Of course, that does come with the challenge of you need your own furniture and things. For example, a kitchen is something that paradoxically here in Germany, culturally seen as something that people, when they're moving apartments, usually take along with them.
We will leave them for the next question because there'll be
Okay.
something about the biggest surprises
Okay.
when you move to Germany, actually. And I think this will really fit well into this one. You mentioned the cost. Let's talk about money, right? Very important part for students. How expensive is it? And do you think it's expensive? How much money do you need per week, for example, to, for groceries? Accommodation, we know it's about 500 if you're staying in the accommodation provider, right? 500, usually 550, depending on the size, but always included, correct? I think you don't pay for anything on top of that. But other costs, right? Transportation, you have your travel pass, right?
Yes.
So you pay once a year.
So basically, the way it works now, because Germany has a novel system that was introduced last year, it's definitely been renewed for this year. Beyond that, we'll have to see. Through university, we get a travel pass for the local area here. So that goes up to Halle, basically the other big city on the other side of the river that flows around here. And then down south to almost where I'm from, basically half an hour, 45 minutes by train, roundabouts. And in that area, through university, we're basically free to move about, take trains, buses, trams, whatever we need to do. Beyond that, you can now purchase a ticket that will let you do that in all of Germany. And the way Leipzig as a city has done that is basically you can upgrade your student ticket. So the price of the student ticket is basically included in your tuition. And then you can pay what you would pay beyond that, but just that amount separately every month. So that is a bit over 14 euros. And that then allows you to use basically any public transport option in all of Germany.
That's
Which
really
is-
cool. That's really
Yeah,
cool.
amazing.
What about other costs? Anakarina, maybe like food,
Yeah, there's always
shopping.
groceries. So if you only do groceries, I would say that around 200, 300 per month is enough for you. If you like to go out in restaurants, the price of a meal could be, including drinks, around 15 euros, which could be, yeah, I think that's an approximately of what you would spend having a main dish and a drink around, yeah, 15 euros. So if you are more into going to restaurants, going outside, then it's always going to be a bit more expensive. However, there are also a lot of apps that you can use. For example, the Too Good To Go, where you can always choose go at the end of the day and pick up some food that's going to be half or even less than half of the price, and they give you a lot of food that you can use for the rest of the week as well. So I think there are a lot of opportunities for you to spare money. And then other costs could be, well, for example, as I said, I love renting a scooter, and a scooter, it costs me around 2 to 3 euros every time I use it. So if you like that, if you don't want to have your own scooter, then that's kind of like the cost of renting one. And I would say also going outside, if you want to go to the cinema, or if you want to go to, what else, escape room or bowling and stuff like that. It depends, but I would say also between 15 to 20 euros it could cost you going on. Yeah.
I want to add also like laundry. I also like to never forget about that, because I try to do a spreadsheet of my monthly, and sometimes I forget, like, oh yeah, every month I have to buy cleaning supplies or and have to do laundry. So that always adds to your grocery list, but not constantly. Then going out, it depends how much you go out and where you want to go. And then
Insurance, I forgot,
Yes.
and I have to pay insurance here in Germany, and that's around 120. You can correct
Health
me.
insurance.
Health
I
insurance.
don't
Health
Yeah.
know,
insurance.
I think
I
it's
don't
yeah,
pay it.
120,
Yeah,
130,
per month.
something like that. Monthly, so you have insurance, and you also have your phone line, something like that. You can always find better contracts every month. You can also go for monthly contracts. Right now, for example, I'm paying one that costs I think 15 euros, which is at a decent price, and I have a lot of gigabytes as well. So yeah, you also need your phone line. And there is also some taxes for the TV that you have to pay, and
That's a very German thing,
Yes,
right?
that's
Yeah.
very
Oh,
good
yeah.
thing. And that's around I think 55 euros every 3 months. Yes, for me.
And you have to pay it regardless
Yes.
if you do have a TV or
Yeah.
not, right?
Yeah, you have to pay it. So if we round it off, I think it's around 1,200 roundabout. If you're staying in a student accommodation, of course. If you have your own apartment, it's probably gonna be cheaper.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, I can just come out and say it. I pay about 280 euros for my apartment for my share of rent and water and heating and such, and then I live off 600 euros a month, and that works perfectly fine. I go out to soccer every second week, ice hockey throughout the winter every week. And I always end up round about the 600 euro mark, so there's never money left over in that sense in a large way. But I've never gotten to the point where I'm like, okay, it's the end of the month and I can't buy food.
Yeah.
I think something around that amount is probably a good sort of estimate.
You know, studies show actually recent surveys that Leipzig is still the most affordable city, you know, when compared to bigger cities like Hamburg, Munich, Frankfurt, and Berlin, right? Okay, great. So it's good to know that it's an affordable place as well to live. Now talking a little bit more about the institution. So Lancaster University Leipzig is very special, right? That's the first British public uni, right, here in Germany. You study in English. And the first question I'm going to have to Brenda and Anakarina, because you do speak German.
Yeah.
How was it? Because we do not require German when you come to Leipzig, right, to study. How difficult was it for you, or wasn't very difficult to, you know, adjust to start living without fluent German skills? So the other question is it possible for someone who doesn't speak German to actually come here and survive? Brenda?
For me, I mean, it's completely possible. In my school, I wasn't taught German, and I was taught French, so I had no knowledge on German. So when I came, the university offers you classes too, but before that, there's people who speak English. Don't get fooled. Not everyone speaks English. That is a good thing to know, have in mind, and maybe download Google Translate. It's always good to have it. But there's always people who speak your language too. Maybe for me, there's people who didn't speak English but spoke Spanish, and I think that's very interesting too. It's definitely possible, especially because the university helps you. For example, when I moved into my accommodation, the person in charge didn't speak much English, but then I don't remember who was there. I think it was Robin, and was in the accommodation to help us move in and translate anything we might need. Then what else? I mean, it's really you get around, and for example, now that my mom came a little bit ago, she mentioned how much I know basics of German. Once you live here, you get to use it constantly. You're always hearing people, and it like trains your brain to think and like be open to new language. So, yeah.
And the university also offers German lessons, so that you can always start getting to know the language and the basics that you need to be in the city. I had the advantage that I studied in a German school, and I also have double nationality, so I kind of already knew my way into the language. However, you always need people here that are willing to help you with the language and with the legal stuff, for example, that you have to do here. I had a lot of help when I first came in here because I was nervous, and the Leipzig has a very special accent when it comes to German, so it was like kind of hard for me at the beginning. But you get to know a lot of people that are willing to help you and that speak both languages. So that's a very nice thing that you can find here. Not only that you can start learning German as well, or at least the basics, but also that people are more than willing to help you with everything.
Great, great.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, going back to, just to give some bit of perspective, going back to what I was saying earlier about how young Leipzig is, y'all have it great here, to be honest, in terms of the amount of people who speak English. If we were to talk about my hometown, Lord help you guys, it would have been a whole different story.
There are lots of accents, right, and dialects. Okay. We do have a bit of an interesting background sound. We are live, and we are actually sitting on the roof on the 7th floor in our lovely, we call it winter garden. My colleague is going to close the door quickly. Perfect. Thank you. So let's quickly talk about the campus itself, right? The building. We moved here 2 years ago, right? So it's still very new space. What is your favorite thing here on campus in the building, apart from the fact that it's so central, right?
Yeah, for me, for example, when I was looking to university, I was worried that there was no campus. But basically, the city, it really is your campus. I feel like I can walk around. But in the building by itself, I really like how, like, I don't know, you always catch on with people. Like, it's not that big, so you always see people around and you get to talk. The rooms, since the classrooms are not it's not too many people. It's also always nice to like have a more central like learning space where you can ask questions. You don't feel like you don't get time to ask your questions or personal things to your teacher. So it's very nice to have a small campus. But then yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when Nicolas and I first started to study here, we only had the 6th floor. Lancaster Leipzig has 3 floors right now, and we only had the 6th floor. However, with the past of the years, we have seen it grow, and we have seen more things to do here on campus. Now on the 1st floor, we have the opportunity to also relax a bit after studying, or if we have a breakthrough classes where we can always play ping pong, or what's the name of this? The
Football.
Yeah, football table, and you can also play video games. And there is also a library section where you can study, and there are a lot of computers that you can use to study there as well. So you don't always have to bring your computer. So yeah, there are a lot of opportunities, and as well, I think my favorite thing from the campus is the terrace that we have on the background. Because when the weather is nice, for example, today, it's amazing to just have lunch there. The view is very nice. You can see the center of Leipzig, and I think that for me, that's one of my favorite things. Yeah.
Great, Nicolas?
Yeah, honestly, for me, it'd be the terrace as well. Partially because I do smoke, so that is very convenient if we have classes up here. But no, also, like you said, it's just cool to sort of sit out there in summer, hang out in between classes. There have been times, I think it was first year, I don't know if you were a part of that, but where when the classes were still partially hybrid, would sometimes come up here and just join for Zoom to be able to sit out in the sun during classes. Not recommended, I'd say. But yeah, no, just the ability to sort of have that option in the middle of the city to just have our own private space. Because of course you can always go and just sit on a bench somewhere in town, but to have that sort of private space where you bump into people, you can just sit out here and chat for a bit. If you do have an hour in between classes, or you just need to take a break for a couple of minutes or whatever, that is really convenient. And then, I mean, you've already mentioned it, I think we've already kind of beat it to death, but the location, of course, is perfect.
I don't think we could even.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not sure, probably people won't see it, but just behind us is the famous church, right? The place where the whole peaceful revolution
Yes.
started, right? So there's so much history as well.
Yeah.
Great. So we were talking about the campus, and now all the students. I mean, you actually represent really quite a quite wide part of the globe. We have now close to 100 nationalities on campus, right? Out of over 400. We are growing very fast as a campus. This October, we are going to have solid couple of hundred new students joining. But how important is it for you, right, to have so many nationalities on campus? And Brenda, you mentioned the classes are quite small. The classes are quite small because the classes are not supposed to be bigger than 20 students, right, to really provide this very bespoke teaching experience to students. But you said you meet everybody, you interact. How important is it for you to have this international community, which honestly is quite special? I think 100 nationalities under one roof is quite unique. Maybe, yeah.
For me, it's very important, not only for like you creating your own family here, and but also like if you think in your future, you're networking with different countries, basically. And you get to know people who are growing in the same time as you and learning the same things, but they're going to go different places in life. So basically, you're expanding your network. Aside from that, for example, you get to find a lot of people who have similarities with you, and not only people who speak your same language, but maybe someone who you never thought you had something in common, and you get to learn new cultures. It's just very interesting as well as cool thing.
I think it's also super important to have different perspectives about things, and having the opportunity to be as such an international campus allows you to see the amount of perspectives people can have in just one topic, which I think that if you are an open-minded person, I think it's so important to get to know everyone's perspectives and to have a bigger understanding of the topic and understand it more and have more empathy as well. And then I think that the internationality of the campus is very important, especially if you like to travel and you like to get to know new cultures. One of my favorite things is that for here studying in Lancaster, Leipzig, you don't have to do that. You have it just in campus. So
Yeah, I mean, even beyond that, you mentioned that sort of open-mindedness, and that is true. And I think everyone who comes here has that sort of innate quality in themselves already. But then I feel like it's a different thing again, living with that day to day, always having that sort of experience of, yes, there's always going to be people who disagree with you about certain things, and there's always going to be interesting points to talk and learn about and things like that. I feel like, especially for, I mean, looking at people from our class graduating this summer, someone's going to London, I know someone's going to Copenhagen, I might be going to Portugal. Like having that sort of experience of already living with a bunch of different cultures also allows you to sort of not just network, but kind of start planning for your future. Maybe, for example, I've been talking to someone here on campus about some of the cultural differences that do exist in Portugal. I've been out there a few times, but never for the length of time I would be at that point. So just having basically always having someone to turn to who is immersed in that culture, knows everything there is to know about whatever country or whatever you may be interested in, is just genuinely an amazing resource to have at your disposal in that sense.
Great, thank you. It's really important, right? You're talking about networking, right? I think Leipzig is such a great place for that, right? Fastest growing city in Germany, so many companies around, right? So many students already having student jobs. So now thinking a little bit more ahead, what are your plans after you graduate, and do you feel well, we don't have to be very specific, but do you feel as well that the university experience that you get in Lancaster Leipzig is actually really prepping you, right, for that next step? Because that's what really students want, right? Like what you guys want to, you want to have a career outcome, not just paper. So how do you feel about that?
Well, talking as a third year student, looking that I only have a few months left. So I believe that Lancaster that offers
do offers a lot of opportunities. There is always the question after you graduate from your bachelor's, am I going to continue with the postgraduate, or am I going to start working and doing a postgraduate, or do I even want to do it, and so on. Those are questions that surround our mind all the time. I had the doubt for a long time, and then I looked into all my options. And I realized that because of Lancaster, I had both of opportunities. If I decided to start working immediately, thanks to the career first that Lancaster offers, you have a lot of opportunities to find a job here in Germany that is also in English. I was also able to find a working student job through those career fairs. So I think that it already opens the doors for you to start within that path, as well as they also offer a lot of support when it comes to studying for another postgraduate or for a postgraduate. I had a lot of questions in my mind about what I wanted to do, and I talked to a lot of people within the university, and they helped me clear my mind and also to apply for what I wanted to do and for postgraduates and so on. So I think that yes, it's a very nice opportunity not only to receive support to either find the job that you want or the postgraduate that you want to achieve. Yes.
Awesome. Brenda?
Well, I'm a first year student,
You
so
still
I
have some time.
still have to think about it, but there's definitely resources that prepare you for the future. There's always Zoom meetings with the Lancaster UK campus where they like teach you or talk about different options you can get with your major, or like you can always get involved into understanding what you want to do after you finish your degree. So it's definitely gonna get me prepared.
Yeah, great. That's good. Yeah, Nicolas?
Yeah, I mean,
Third year?
yeah, I have an idea of what I want to do afterwards. But just in terms of how I got to that idea specifically, I feel like there's, especially for us, in terms of the business management program, because most of our lecturers have spent a lot of time in the industry as well. They are your main point of contact, of course, in the sense that they're the people you interact with on a weekly basis. But they're also the people who are most likely to be able to help you with that sort of thing. I mean, usually they are people who have done exactly what we're doing, going through college, maybe doing a post grad, or maybe starting to work right away, or whatever else. They're not just people who spend their entire lives at university. So usually, if you just go up to them, ask them, "Hey, what do you think I should do in this situation?" They'll always have some really good insights. And I feel like that's been really helpful. Like Anna said, not making a decision, because at the end of the day, that's something you have to do for yourself, but just laying out, okay, what are all of my options? And like I mentioned earlier, I think there's 10 universities here in Leipzig, by my count, out of which 6 or 7, for us at least, offer relevant master's programs. So there is a depth and breadth of different options that just being here in Leipzig uh, allows you to have for taking that sort of next step if you do want to end up staying here or whatever else.
Great. Thank you. That was, I think, a good final question about your plans, and we will now move on to questions from the audience. Okay. So, there was a question about academics and professors, because we mentioned international, student body, but what about actually people teaching? You mentioned that they have a lot of experience, but are they? I think that question is about, are they coming only from Germany? Are they international professors? Maybe Anakarina can.
We have a lot of international professors all around the world and from different continents as well. We have, of course, teachers from Germany. We also have from Yemen. We also have from the UK. So we have, as you can see, from different continents and countries. That allows you as well to have the big overview of what you're being taught from different perspectives, which I think it's quite interesting. All of them has a very interesting background. They have had the practice and they have had their own businesses or have had other types of work who can, therefore they can teach you things that they know not only through theory but also practice, which I think it's super interesting. Yeah.
Great. Okay. The next question is about activities on campus. Do you feel there is, in terms of what's happening, I don't know, career fairs, companies, presentations, like something extra? Do you feel there is enough? Maybe Brenda and then Nicolas, because you have a bit different comparison since you've been longer. A lot of change, right? Over the last, 2 years on campus. So
If they mean in the social aspect, there's a social committee who always organizes events. I think it's 2 times a month, or like there's something always going on. There's a karaoke, for example, coming up. There was a debate night. There is board games. There is this video games like contests. I don't know, but there's always something social going on. But then in the academic part, there's also like if you go, they always send you a newspaper in your email where you can see something going on every week. Zoom meeting where you can see what jobs Leipzig has to offer currently, or like I don't know, an activity that's going on in Leipzig Center, something.
Yeah. Yeah, no, piggyback off what Brenda mentioned about the social committee, that has been one of the major changes, and I feel like major growths that we have experienced over the last couple of years. When we started out here, I believe we were 80 students, something around that.
actually last when we started, right?
Even
It
less
was
than
not
that, yeah. And now we've grown to around about 400 now.
over.
Over? Yeah, so the options and the sort of just by having more people, you're always nowadays you're way more likely to find someone who actually shares or enough people to do something that share the same interest in sort of projects like that you do. And I can tell you all three of us are members of the social committee. So we do take a big part in planning and organizing events that sometimes we come up with them ourselves. Sometimes students come to us and say, hey, we want to do this, this, and this. And that has sort of multiplied a lot over the past years with students either coming to us for one-off events or founding their own clubs. We have a robotics club now. I came from chess club earlier downstairs. And there's a bunch of different things, and that's only going to continue to grow as the university grows. Of course, that does come with some growing pains. Not everything is always going to work the first time around. But thanks to you guys and all of the staff, we can always count on the fact that everything is going to go as smoothly as it can at all be possible, even if that sometimes means there is a bit of not chaos, but yeah, a bit of quick thinking involved in some aspects. But I personally, I find that more fun than if everything were to just work perfectly 100% of the time, because you can actually take part in,
Creation.
yeah, yeah, and sort of also kind of steering the direction in which you want to take certain things like that. And for those of you who would be joining, I mean, there is a myriad of options in terms of taking part in that sort of creation. You have student representatives that basically deal more with the academic issues of whatever class you're in. You have the social committee, of course, which anyone is free to join. That basically deals with hosting and organizing events, things like that. Our end of year party as well that we've had ever since we came here. And I mean, you also have student ambassadorship, which is then a bit more of the marketing side of things, if that's something you're interested in. But there's no matter what exactly you want to do, there's always a way to sort of get involved with that process.
That's great. All right, to finish, one sentence, well, one phrase, quick summary. Your advice or your message to prospective students, right? I mean, I think based on what you said, we can definitely, we're quite happy, right? At Lancaster Leipzig, no doubts about that. But there are still students, having doubts. It's a huge decision.
Yeah.
So one piece of advice that you would give them to say, actually, you're going to be here, okay, it's going to be a good place for you if you feel that, of course.
A piece of advice. Come with an open mind. I mean, it's a beautiful place to be. It might be different, but there's always something nice to learn about it. And also, if you want to focus on the academic part, make sure to be organized. For me, that's something I struggle with. Like, this university is a lot of study, and I was not used to that. But there's like if you learn the amount you want to learn. They teach you, they give you all the materials, but if you wanna go the extra step, you always got to be on your own.
I would say that coming here, it's already a challenge, but it's worth it, 100% worth it. And sometimes you can come here with the ideas of, I want to have a job, I want to study, I also want a social life, I want to also be able to have my room clean and be able to cook and all that stuff. And yes, everything is possible as long as you have a good organization. So yeah, and balance your life out so that you can accomplish everything. So as long as you can organize yourself and balance it out, you can accomplish everything that you want to do here.
Great.
Yeah, honestly, in terms of advice, I'd say take everything one day at a time and don't stress too much, especially when you're first starting out. It must be horrible for you because even for me, it was pretty intense when I first moved here from this country. So yeah, take it one day at a time. There's always going to be things that don't go perfectly. That's inevitable. Don't beat yourself up about that. Things will go the way you want them to go in the long term if you keep at it. And beyond that, yeah, just have fun, honestly. Like I think that's the most important thing, especially first year or if you're doing foundation year. Have fun with it. You're going to learn a lot along the way, and no one expects you to be perfect starting in day one. So just come in, like you said, with an open mind, and everything will be okay.
Great. Thank you so much. And guys, we just heard the bells at 3 p.m. here in Leipzig, which means that our great chat is over. It was great. I mean, guys, so helpful, and I'm pretty sure everybody listening will say the same. Thank you so much, Nicolas and Anakarina and Brenda, our wonderful students. This was our first episode of the new version of the LU Leipzig student room, and we hope you enjoyed it. There are going to be more, so please watch out the space for future events, virtual open days. We have a few career talks coming up, so make sure you check our website, also our Instagram account and Facebook for everything new, exciting happening on campus. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you very much, and yeah, we'll